GM. Today's lesson is going to be about taking the pressure off you and putting it onto your system. Because one of the biggest things that holds us back in trading, especially when you're beginning to be systematic and you're following rules, is the taking your plan, right? And then allowing it to actually just play out per the rules. So this is really important. If you use something like price action and you use, for example, an under-over system, you want to make sure that your entry rule is the same every time. And as you test, you'll realize that no two under-over patterns are the same. So everyone knows the under-over. It's like left shoulder, head, right shoulder. And you have to have the market structure break in between. But when you're saying how to enter, what's the actual rule? Is it I enter after the market structure break itself? Because that's not the right shoulder. It's fine to do that, but if it's not the right shoulder and you want to wait for the right shoulder to form, how does the shoulder form? Because it forms, as you guys know, if you've done it, it forms in many different ways. So is it I wait for the price to retrace back down until it touches the previous level, like the level of the left shoulder? But if so, to keep that objective, then it needs to touch exactly that level. Or is it I'm going to combine it with moving average, the EMA bands, maybe the 12 and 21. I'm going to wait for price to have a market structure break, pull back, make sure the bands are green, and after I see two consecutive green candles, after going below the EMA bands, then I enter. So obviously a lot of this won't make sense if you've not done that specific system by an audio message. The point is not for any specific system. The point is you need to make the rules super clear and don't introduce anything that can be subjective, right? A lot of times as traders, we're always keen to have more confluence, but more confluence can actually make you a worse trader because it introduces your opinion. A good example of this is using data. You're like, okay, well, I see the under-over. I see the EMA bands are green, so I want to enter on a candle close. Okay. Then when you enter, you look at funding rates, you look at open interest, because now you're in the trade. You want to see, what's the market doing? What's positioning like? But the problem with that is it's super hard to be objective because what are you looking for? Rising open interest? Well, rising open interest isn't bad or good. Falling open interest, that's not bad or good. How much does it change? Does it matter? What if funding is at the same level it was at before? Is that good? If funding has gone down, is that good or bad? There's a lot of these questions that don't have an answer. And I think this is something that I want to really stress. And it's why mostly just using price action and something simple like EMAs or moving averages keeps it more objective. For example, if your rule is to enter once price goes below the 50 EMA and then back above, right? Say you're in an uptrend and you want it to pull back to the 50 EMA, you want it to touch the 50 or go below the 50, whichever, and you want it to close, this is important, the next time a candle closes above the 50, then you enter your long. That's objective. But you'll often hear me when I answer questions to students, they'll say they'll show me a screenshot and it'll be like, here's a chart. Bitcoin was going up, but the open interest was going down. Is this bullish or bearish? And I always say, it depends, right? Bitcoin going up and open interest going down can mean it's a short squeeze, and a short squeeze can continue. Bitcoin going up and open interest going down could mean that longs are exiting, taking profit, and it can be bad. So if there's anything like that doesn't have a clear, defined, this is good or this is bad, then remove it. Don't use it in your system. Because when it comes to the point of taking the trade, you're then going to have to put your opinion in. You're going to have to say, do I think that this time the open interest going down is bad? Or do I think that this time the open interest going down is good? And then what that opens up is emotional distress. Because when you lose, then it's like, oh, I made the wrong call and I lost. Whereas if you just say, in an uptrend, when it pulls back to the EMA 50 and then it closes above the EMA 50, that is still an uptrend because it's above the 50. Therefore, it's bullish by the moving average. Not by my opinion. The moving average is telling me above it, after it's tested, above it is bullish. So then if it's wrong, you're like, okay, cool. But I did what I was supposed to do because in an uptrend, we should be above the MA or the EMA. Understand? So make sure, I know a lot of people have this when they're building systems and testing systems. Make sure you keep that in mind. Anything you can think of that doesn't have a clear rule, then don't use it. Because I know loads and loads of you want to use data, like you see me using data, open interest, funding, CVDs and all that. But understand that I very, very rarely take a trade because of just the data. The data is like how I analyze the market in the morning or analyze it at a certain time. So I can say, would I be interested in this market long or short? It doesn't be the decider, right? If I saw open interest doing something that I typically think is bullish, I wouldn't enter because of that. But if I then saw like a retest of a moving average and it holds, and I was like, okay, I watched this morning, I thought open interest looked good, I thought it looked bullish, it was rising, accumulation, whatever. But then we had a pullback into the 50 EMA and we held, we touched it, we closed above. That for me then would trigger my EMA system and give me extra confidence in that trade. But the actual rule about the open interest wouldn't come into it. Yeah, it's not like every single time I see open interest go up, I go long, because it's not always true that open interest going up is bullish. So generally, drilling down to just price action, which is any of your technical analysis. So it can be false breakouts, it can be under overs, it can be whatever, Wyckoff structures, and something like your indicators, moving average, RSI, right? Like, so RSI divergence. You either get a divergence or you don't. It's objective. You can't say, oh, I think this is maybe going to be a divergence. No, you wait. If there's a divergence confirmed by the candle close, then you trade. And that really helps. And the overarching point of this lesson is that it's not about the trade itself. It's about when you win or lose. You want to make sure that every time you win or lose, it's because of the system, not because of you. Because it's okay when you win. It's always great to win. But it's mostly when you lose. And that's where our psychology is our weakest, is when we lose. Because our ego gets bruised. And so if you can say, I went long because of a bullish divergence, and I've done this 100 times on my backtesting, I went long because of a bullish divergence. If it then loses, you can say, okay, cool. The system lost. I didn't lose. The system lost. Whereas if you say, I went long because open interest looked like it was showing accumulation, and you're wrong, then you're like, oh, I knew it wasn't. I shouldn't have done that. That was subjective. And that's where you start to beat yourself up. So make sure you outsource your thinking to the system. That's what being systematic is. A simple way to view it as well is if you could code it into an algorithm, then it's objective, right? You could code an algorithm to identify a bearish divergence or a bullish divergence, and on the candle close that confirms that, to enter a trade. But you can't code an algorithm to say, if open interest is going up, then get long. Because open interest is always going up or down, right? Whether the price is going up, down, sideways, price can just be moving nowhere, and open interest can be moving up or down. So there's no clear way of coding it. If there isn't a clear way that somebody could code it, then it's a good sign that it's not fully objective. A truly objective rule is very easy to put into a system. So just a reminder, keep that in mind. That should help if some of you are struggling with systems.